Here are the headlines.
Welcome to the Youth Town Hall podcast. Today we are with the founder of Cycle Forward, Sophie Draluck. She created Cycle Forward her junior year in Illinois as a means to increase access to period poverty for those in her community and also around the world. Sophie, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for taking the time to get to know me better and know more about Cycle Forward.
Absolutely. I'm also here with my co-host, Lauren Chang. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Mollie?
Awesome. Lauren, can you tell us a little bit more about Cycle Forward and what you guys do?
Do you mean Sophie?
Yes, Sophie.
It's okay. You're good.
Yeah, of course. So we started in 2017, and it started, with just me. I didn't even know what period poverty was at this point. I read an article in the Chicago Tribune about how school absenteeism was rising among Ugandan schoolgirls because they didn't have access to period products. And obviously that is super upsetting, but what was perhaps more upsetting was the fact that that was the first time I was hearing about this issue in 2017 when this was not a new issue at all. So I was very disturbed by the fact that this issue was so, overlooked and under discussed. And, I wanted to do some research and see, where else this was occurring. And I, after researching, I found that this is not an issue that occurs in remote African villages. This occurs everywhere. It's in the U.S. It's in Chicago, where I'm from. It's even in my hometown, Highland Park, Illinois. And so I met with the staff of my local food pantry, the Moraine Township Food Pantry, and I asked them, is this something that your clients need? Is this something you guys would be interested in? And they told me, yes, absolutely. Period products are among the most highly requested yet least donated products in our pantry. And that was something I heard throughout pretty much all of the organizations that I eventually spoke to and partnered with. And I think that, a lot of that, under funding and under provision of products is because people don't think about it because there is such a stigma around periods and around period products. And for that reason, no one is talking about period poverty. No one's talking about what happens when women or menstruators don't have access to those kinds of products. So Cycle Forward's mission has really been twofold. One, to get the products into the hands of the people who need them, and also to work on diminishing the stigma surrounding menstruation, as well as increasing access to period products in public spaces.
Thank you. With such a stigma, how was it hard to create awareness for your program, to partner with food banks to reach out to them?
I wouldn't say it was hard to partner with these food banks because they are very aware that this is something that their clients need. I would say, for other people outside of, the people we work with, just telling people about Cycle Forward and trying to garner support and funding and all that kind of stuff, that is what made it a little bit harder. But I think after a lot of practice, I've become very comfortable talking about it. There's no reason not to be comfortable. It's just something that it's kind of ingrained in all of us, and for no good reason. So I think that I've had a lot of experience talking about it. I've talked about it with all my friends, of course, and now we're all very comfortable talking about it. So yeah, I would say at first it definitely was a little bit uncomfortable for me, but I was able to eventually, shed my own stigma that I held around it.
And for those of our viewers who might not be aware, 1 in 10 young women can't afford period pads or tampons.
Yeah, I mean, and also it's these products are taxed as luxury items in, I think it's 32 states still, which is crazy, when products like Rogaine and Viagra that are targeted towards men are not taxed in the same way. This is a super essential product, so I don't know why it's considered a luxury. And I don't think any menstruator would say it's a luxury to have their period. So, not sure. So, we're also working on bringing awareness to some of those more advocacy side issues of it, of working on that kind of legislative change. Luckily in Illinois,
And
it's there.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so Illinois is actually one of the few states that requires that free menstrual products be provided in public school bathrooms, which is really great, and we're hoping to see that become more widespread of a mandate. But
That is
um,
not true in Pennsylvania.
yeah, so but at the same time, like even though it's legally mandated, it's kind of up to like the students to make sure that it's being enforced. So like in
Which is
my
insane
high
because,
school,
like,
yeah,
they don't require students to make sure that there's toilet paper in the stalls or
exactly,
soap in the soap dispensers. It only
totally,
seems to be the ones that affect girls.
totally.
Yeah, at my high school, it can become uncomfortable for especially girls because instead of having your menstruation like products in your bathrooms, they have it at the nurse, and that can get kind of uncomfortable having to walk from the bathroom to the nurse, have to ask for a
Yes,
tampon or
totally
a pad.
inconvenient.
Yeah. So I know at my school specifically, we've tried to tackle this problem as well and just create awareness for similar to your organization. A bunch of girls have started the CV Pad project because I go to Cumberland Valley, and they kind of work with Penn State's Pad project just to create more awareness towards this issue, but theirs is more geared towards developing countries in India.
Very
So
cool.
obviously your organization has like grown since it has started. So how has your perspective changed since starting Cycle Forward?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have grown a lot. Over the past 3, 4 years, we've donated over 140,000 period products to menstruators in need, which is super exciting. Um, But yeah, I mean, I would say in terms of how my perspective changed, it really just opened my eyes to, how prevalent the stigma is, and also that there are so many other important social issues that don't get enough attention. I was, recently reading about maternal death rates in the U.S., and that's also something that's not nearly talked about as much. And a lot of these issues do happen to be more female related issues. And I think that trying to bring awareness to some of those important topics is critical in, enacting gender equity and all that. So, yeah.
So would you say that having period products and for menstruators is necessary for gender equality?
I would say definitely yes. I think that it is a human right for all people to be able to menstruate with dignity. And I think that until, that dignity is achieved for everyone, you couldn't possibly achieve gender equity. So that's why we're fighting the fight.
All right. So you've had Cycle Forward. You've been running it for 4 years, but when you first started it, what was your greatest setback to actually getting it in motion? Because a lot of students have a dream, but not every student puts that dream in motion. So
Yeah, totally.
how did you do it?
I would say that there were several setbacks definitely at the beginning. One that I could think of is that we would have, big organizations trying to give us larger donations, but they couldn't because we were not a 501c3 tax exempt organization. And then, like it was a really big process. I had no idea what I was doing at first. Luckily, my mom was able to help me a little bit with that process, which I was so thankful for. And it was a lot of paperwork, a lot of legal documentation.
Can you tell us a
Oh,
little
sorry.
about the process to becoming a nonprofit 50?
501c3. Yeah. Basically, there's just a ton of like legal, like huge documents. It's really hard to like read through the fine lines. So that was kind of like the biggest challenge, I would say. But obviously it worked out because we are now a 501c3 tax exempt organization. But at first, it was super discouraging to be having to turn away these potential really big donors because of that. So that was definitely frustrating at first. But after we kind of overcame that hurdle, we've seen a lot of success, coming after that. So yeah.
I actually have a quick question. How were you able to reach out to these companies? Did you call them or like contact them through email? Like, how did you get the ability for them to even want to donate to you?
Yeah, so it was definitely like a bit of everything. Like we would call people, email people, talk to people in person, before COVID. And then also Cycle Forward has been so lucky to have been featured in a couple large publications. So we've, gotten some media attention from that, and that has led to other organizations finding out about Cycle Forward and reaching out to us to learn more about our organization. So I feel like those are kind of the main ways that we establish those kinds of partnerships.
I know that you were featured on Teen Vogue, and these young people are trying to end period poverty. What was that like for you to be contacted by Teen Vogue?
Yeah, that was super exciting. I loved, having the opportunity to have Cycle 4 be featured in such a major publication. That was really exciting to see a lot of our work be recognized and valued. Um, and also just brings more awareness to the issue of period poverty itself, which, as we've already discussed, is very not talked about enough, and not paid attention to. So I was so happy to have the chance to, one, put Cycle Forward on this kind of big platform, but also period poverty and menstrual equity, as well.
Yeah, that's great. So with your organization, obviously, you've come a long way from when you first started. So you were talking about you were talking a little bit about your greatest setback when you first started, but what would you say your greatest struggle is as of right now for your organization?
That's a really good question. I mean, I would say it's a bit more personal. It's just the fact that I'm in college now, and it's obviously hard to balance running Cycle Forward and school, and trying to do well in school and join clubs and all that kind of stuff. But and like also taking the time for self care and like making sure that I'm doing okay, mentally. And I think that has been a big challenge for me like this past semester. But um, I've been able to, take the time that I need for myself, which I'm so thankful for. I'm so glad that I've been doing that because I think that's really helped me. And just tried to manage my time as best I could. And obviously, like that's just a part of life is like having to manage different responsibilities. But that was something that was kind of a big change for me. Was going to college and like living in a different place and trying to manage Cycle Forward. But it's actually given me so many great opportunities. I mentioned this in my email to you, but we've actually expanded to working with different Philadelphia organizations and partnering with them and serving their clients as well, which is great. We love to be expanding and helping different menstruators and making a bigger impact.
And if I'm aware, you're also operating in Florida in a contact with a UK group and
Yes.
Uganda, I think.
No, we work with an organization in India as well as a school in Haiti. Yeah.
So what are your long-term goals for that? Do you look to expand internationally more or in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, America more?
That's a good question. I think, right now I'm working on making an impact in Philadelphia. Um, I go to Penn, and like our theme for the year was civic engagement. So I really wanted to make an impact on the Philadelphia community, and help the people around me. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on right now. But in the future, I could definitely see us working on other international endeavors, as well as more U.S. expansion.
Has COVID affected your ability to expand your organization, or what other setbacks has COVID played a role in?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with no one in school and, schools being a big provider of menstrual products for a lot of girls who might not have access to them at home, um, a lot of girls lost their access to these essential products. So we have really been trying to amp up our donations and get as much funding as possible so that we're able to really help all those menstruators who haven't been able to get the products that they need from the schools. And then, yeah, there was a huge like supply issue. I'm sure like at the beginning of quarantine, you saw like toilet paper was running out. The same thing could happen with menstrual products as everyone was buying them in bulk and there wasn't enough for organizations like us to serve the clients that we need, which was um, kind of like a struggle for us, but we luckily had a pretty big supply already from before everything, went downhill. But that was definitely kind of a stressor on my mind, at least, was how we were going to, keep operating if we weren't able to order as many products. But all in all, I think we've definitely pivoted in a good way. We've been able to expand to different organizations, and obviously with so many people struggling financially due to the pandemic, it's so rewarding that we're able to help more people now through our like Philadelphia expansion because it's so much more necessary.
Do you have any advice for students who are inspired to make the same difference that you are? For our friends at the CV Pad Project.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would just say that like start, period poverty is a huge systemic problem and it's a global problem. So, it might feel pretty daunting to just try to tackle that. Oops, sorry, my AirPods fell out. But I would just say just focus on one aspect of the issue. That's definitely how I started. The first thing I wanted to do was get products for my local food pantry. So that was a pretty small task to begin with. But it kind of expanded from there and it gets easier like as you're doing it for longer. So any small action that you can do makes an impact. So don't overlook that and think, oh, because period poverty isn't over, that means I didn't help. No, you did help. You definitely made an impact in the lives of those who you provided for. So that would be my advice. Yeah.
And I think what you're doing is so great too, because especially with menstrual products and just periods in general, I know that it can be kind of self-degrading thinking that like, oh, especially for those women in developing countries, like having a lack of products kind of brings a lack of self-confidence because you don't feel as confident about yourself, especially during your period, because you kind of feel uncomfortable in your own skin. And I think what you're doing and what other organizations or like even just high schools, like bringing awareness towards this issue is so important because it allows girls to feel more comfortable in their own skin.
Definitely. I think that
Yeah.
like opening up those kinds of conversations where you're talking about it just begins to normalize menstruation and period talk, which is definitely going in the right direction as that like normalization of that kind of topic works to diminish the stigma, and that's ultimately our goal. So
Yes, I think that's a great goal. It's a goal that even if it is accomplished, you can still expand upon it. So that's great. If the whole world was listening to you right now, what would you say about either period poverty, your organization, or just like the lack of menstruation still in general? Or not menstruation, but the menstruation products.
yeah, I mean, I think that everyone can be affected by an issue. You can, feel sympathetic towards a problem. But, like I was saying before, um, it's easy to get kind of scared away by how large the issue is and feeling like you're so small that you couldn't possibly make an impact. Um, I think that I would tell the world that to really try to get out of that mindset and to take action. It doesn't matter how big or small your first step is. It's just once you lift your foot off the ground and take that first step, you're already in motion and you're cycling forward and you're making a difference. So, um, yeah, that would be my whole spiel. But yeah, I think that's it.
I think that is a lovely thing for the world to hear, and I think that we definitely need to hear more about it. For our listeners, if you want to read more about period poverty, there are some great articles on the web, but we can recommend Heavy Flow by Amanda Lard, Period Power, Manifesto for the Menstrual Movement, and Moon Mysteries by Dio Sims and Nika Seeds.
You can also get more information on the Cycle Forward website, which is www.cycleforwardnow.org, or we also have resources on our Instagram, which is Cycle Forward Now.
A shameful promotion, but we're going to do one too. You can find us on Instagram at Youth Town Hall PA. Thank you, Sophie, for being with us, and I have no idea what to sign out with. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.